Roger Liu here from the Virtual Technology and Design Laboratory at the University of Idaho, and in this tutorial, the fourth edition of the Virtual Cities with Unity, I like how every single time it has a different name, series. So in this tutorial, we're going to create a script that will go through and find all the humans in our scene and then dump out their characteristic data, like their age and their type, and we could even dump out there where they live and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we want to do is create an object, an empty game object, and we'll call this human data dump, because we're just going to dump the data. It actually does not matter where this is, but a lot of people like to put these sorts of scripts at 000, or sorry, these sorts of game objects at 000, and then they kind of know where to find them. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then inside of our scripts folder, let's create a subfolder called analyses, because it's likely that we'll end up with more of these. And then we'll create a script named human data dump, and give Unity some time. Sometimes it's good to be patient with Unity. Oh, see, not patient enough. Okay, I think it did something. It seemed a little laggy. And success. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to define a public string named file name, and this will specify the location where we should dump the data. And I'm going to set a default value of human data.csv, and this ends up being relative to our project folder. If you don't know, a CSV file is a plain text file with comma-separated values. And this is good because we can open it in Excel, and we can use Excel's functionality to do the data analysis. So the next thing we'll need is a StreamWriter, and that is in the system.io namespace, so we need to import that. So you can say using system.io So this particular component isn't going to need a start or an update function. We're going to define a public method that gets called like we did with the grid spawn editor. So we'll have a button that you click, and then it'll write out this data file. So we'll do public void generate report. And then inside of here, the first thing we should do is check to see whether the file exists. So we can do if file.exists, and then if it does exist, we want to delete it. And this is part of the system.io namespace. So if you don't do this, then it won't be able to find file. You'd have to do system.io.file. And there is a little bit of a gotcha here. So if the file is actually open in Excel, then this will error because Excel locks it. But if you see that, that's what it is. You just need to close it in Excel. And then we'll use the StreamWriter class in system.io to actually write the data to the file. So we'll get that by doing var sw, I'm just going to call it sw, new stream writer, and then we pass that file name. So the way we'll find the humans is by finding the residences. And then once we have the residences, we can look at the adults list and the children list to find the humans. So to get the residences, we'll do var residences equals transform with a capital T dot find objects of type. Make sure you use the plural one. And this is a template function, and we want to find residence. So this will basically find all the residence objects and return them as an array. Array is a lot like a list. And then we can iterate through these. Instead of using a for loop, we could use a for each loop, and then you get to see something new. So we would do for each var. Actually, I want to make this plural, so this is going to find a list or all of the residences, and then here I'm going to use the singular. So var residence in residences, the plural, and then I can manipulate that, or I can iterate through all the adults. So then I could do for var adults in residence dot adults. Oops. And the reason I'm using var is because with C#, if the name is obvious, then C# can figure out what it is, and I don't have to type StreamWriter here, and I don't have to type residence, and I don't have to type human in this case. So actually, I'm going to name this human because it'll make it slightly easier later on. Okay, so now that we have a reference to the human, to our adult, we can build a string that has the data that we want to spit out. So to do that, we can do string line, and then we're going to use the string.format method. And when you're joining a bunch of stuff together, this is just a little bit cleaner looking and easier to understand what's going on than using pluses. It's also faster. And so basically what you do is you can specify a list, or you can specify where arguments go inside of a string. So the first argument after this template will go where there's the curly braces and the 0, and then it'll spit out a comma, and then it'll do the next argument and a comma, and so on. So the first thing I want to spit out is human.name. And then the second thing I'm going to spit out is human dot residence type, and to get that we need to do residence dot residence type. And so that's one of the reasons that it's nice that our human has a reference to its residence. So then that'll basically tell us whether they're in an apartment or in a suburb, and since there are no apartments, pretty likely they're in a suburb. And then we can do human.human type, and that'll tell us whether they're an adult or a child, and then we can do human.age. We could also do, let's see. So I think that's pretty much all that we have for now. So that gives us 4 different values that we can spit out. Oh, this also needs to be adults, it looks like. And then to actually write that, we can do sw.writeLine. And then we write the line. Alright, so that's for the adults, and then we can do the same thing for the children. we need to do is to close our files. So we'll do SW close, and then down here we can use Unity's debugging functionality, or its console debugging functionality. So we could type debug.log and then the message that we want to pass to the console window. And again, the console window is this window. So we can write generate report, or let's say human data dump dot generate report as completed, semicolon. So we also need to generate a header line. So we'll type string header equals name, residence type, human type, age. And then we could do sw.write line header. I'm going to create another editor folder in here. The editor extensions have to be in a folder named editor, or maybe a subfolder named editor. Not positive there. So human data dump editor. Alright, so here's what I would do here. I'm going to go back to my scripts, and then I'm going to go to my editor folder, and then I'm going to open up my grid spawn editor, copy, paste, and then wherever there's grid spawn, we need to replace that with human data dump. And to get the search and replace box, I did Control H. Generate report, is that what we called it? Or maybe we'll do that here. Generate report. And then here we'll do generate report. Okay, so let's give this a try. And we can see our file is in there, and then we can open it up, and it looks like that has worked. So for instance, I'm kind of curious about our age distribution, so we can use the data analysis package. If you don't see this in Excel, then you need to go to options, and then go to add-ins, and then manage Excel add-ins, go, and then make sure the analysis tool pack is checked, and that will make this appear. So we can use the histogram functionality. So I held down Shift and Control and then pressed the down arrow. And then our first row has a label. So I'm going to click that, and then I want a chart. And then I want to output it on this page right here. Okay, so we have way more adults than children, like roughly double, so that's something to consider. We could tweak that a little bit to try to have a flatter distribution across these ages. But with that, I am going to call this tutorial good, and I'll see you next time.